So
This conference
functions
will now be recorded.
in Python. So today we'll be talking about functions in Python. So whenever I'm talking about a function, so so first we will give the function definition. A function is a part of the program. A function is a part of the program that will perform a task. Okay, so a function is a part of the program that will perform a task. Okay, so that will perform a task. It may take the data or even may return the data. It may take the data or it may return the data. So a function is something which will do some task. So what it can do is it may take the data and it may also return the data. Okay, so it may also return the data. So it may take the data or it may return the data. So what is the function here? So function is a part of the program that will perform a task. So it may take the data or it may even return the data. Okay, so it may even return the data. Okay, so that is the definition of a function. Now how we can work with a function, we need to know that. So work with a function in order to work with a function we need two steps. In order to work with function we need two steps. One, defining a function. Next, calling a function. Defining a function and next calling a function. So we need two steps. First is defining a function and the second step is going to be calling a function. Okay, so we will understand these two, but first of all let us understand there are two types of functions. There are two types of functions. One, predefined. So predefined functions. Okay, so there are two types of functions: predefined functions, or you also call them as built-in functions. We also call them as built-in functions. So predefined functions, or you also can call them as built-in functions. And then you have the user-defined functions. Here the user-defined functions. So we have predefined functions as well as the user-defined functions. So whenever I am talking about the predefined functions or the built-in functions, these are the type of functions that are already created. Okay, so these are the type of functions which are already created in the Python program environment. Python program environment. So basically, these are the functions which are already created in the Python program environment and already created or already defined, I should say, already defined in the program environment, and we may call them for performing a specific task. For performing a specific task. Okay, so these are the type of functions that are already defined in the program environment, that is Python program environment. So what we can do is, so we can just define. Okay, so we can just we can just call them and uh, perform a particular or a specific task for that matter. Okay, so that is what we have to go for. Okay, so for example, like say print. So what is print here? So print is a function So print is a function that is used for printing. It is used for printing something onto the console. Printing something onto the console. So what is print here? So print is a function we use it for printing something onto the console. Okay, so print is going to print something. Okay, so now in the same way, you have something like type function is a function used to return the type of the, or I should say the data type. So used to return the data type of the, so it is used to return the data type of the function which is used to return the data type of the variable. Okay, so used to return the data type of the variable. So print is used to print something, type is used to return something or some data type. Okay, so for example, if I have to say something like x1. Okay, so x1 is equal to 58, let's say. Now I will say type of x1. So what is type here? Type is a function. Type is a function, so which will return int. So what it is returning here? It is returning int. And at the same time, you go for print of x1. So what does print of x1 will do? So print of x1 will return 58. So what is this 58 here? So 58 is a number. Okay, so 58 is nothing but a number. So what is returning? So it is returning something like 58. So which is the job of the print. So the job of the print. So here we call this type and print as calling. Okay, so they are already defined. Okay, so they are already defined. We are just going to call them. Okay, so type you are calling to perform a specific task. Print you are calling to perform a specific task. Okay, so that is what is predefined function. So when we talk about the user defined functions, so what are the user defined functions? The functions that are to be created, or I should say, that are to be defined by the, so the functions that are to be defined by the user or the programmer. So user or the functions that are created or that are defined by the user or the programmer and can be called when the task specified task must be, okay, so specified task must be performed. Specified task must be performed. So functions that are to be defined by the user or the programmer and can be called when the specified task must be performed must be performed. Okay, right. So here defining a function. So in order to define a function, you have to say def. Okay, so you have to follow a simple syntax. So def, so you can give the function name. So you can give the function name, and here you can pass the arguments if at all you want, and you can put the statements here. Okay, so statements can be anything. So, but before the statement, so you can also write a doc string. So doc string means the help information. Okay, so doc string means the help information. So which you will get upon working or upon checking with the function. Okay, so statements. So now calling. So calling of a function. So calling of a function. So what you can do here, you can just give the function name. That's it. So you can give the function name and you can provide the list of arguments over here. So you have to define the function in this way and you have to provide the list of arguments under the function name. Okay, so in this way you can call the function. In this way, you can call the function. So in this way, you can define the function. Okay, so in this way, you are going to look at the function calling as well as the function definition. Okay, so function calling as well as the function definition. So this is what is a user defined function. So user defined function which is used for doing some action. So the function name is used for the calling. Okay, so this is used for the action, and this is used for sending the data. Okay, so and you can even return the values. Okay, so return. Okay, so value or values. Okay, so you can return one value or multiple values for that matter. Okay, so that is how you can define a function. Okay, so you can define a function. So what you're doing here, you are defining a function. So that function name, you have the arguments, you can have a doc string, so which is going to give you the documentation of that function, and you are having the statements and you are having the return values. Okay, so if you go for an example here, okay, so if you go for an example over here, so what we are going to example, so addition of two numbers. Okay, so addition of two numbers. So addition of two numbers. Okay, so we want somebody to add two numbers by writing a function. So what I'll do here is I will just create a function, something like df. So addition. Okay, so df addition. So arguments is optional. Okay, so arguments is optional, but anyhow I'll try to give the argument. So a comma b, and here I will say, so print a plus b. Okay, so print a plus b. So now this is the function that I am creating. Okay, so this is a function that I am creating, and I am going to call that function by the help of the name of the function, and here I will say something like 10 comma 5. Okay, so 10 comma 5. So simply I'm running this, so you are getting the answer as 15. So you're getting the answer as 15. So what is this basically? This is a function. Okay, so this is a function. So what you're doing here, you are writing a function. So this is function. So this is function definition. Okay, so function definition. So this is function definition. So and so return and all we will see. And this is called, okay, otherwise I should say. So and this is called function calling. Okay, so what is this called? Function calling. So in this way, you can define a function and you can work with the data. Okay, so now always remember. Okay, so one more thing that I need to tell you is docstring. So what is docstring? So docstring is, it is nothing but the help information. It is nothing but the help information that needs to be. So it is nothing but the help information that needs to be, okay, that needs to be provided the function under the function using triple single quotes. Okay, so using triple single quotes. Okay, using triple single quotes. So we are going to use triple single quotes for this doc string. Okay, so it is optional. It is optional. However, we can put the uh, information such as number of arguments, return type, number of arguments, return type, and you can also know about, okay, so number of arguments, return type, logic of the function, etc., etc. Okay, so logic of the function, etc. So many things you can know. So for example, okay, so I'll just put it in three dots. So I got something like generate doc string. So what I'm getting here, so parameters, so type description. So now I'll just want to give that somebody needs to take two integer values. Okay, somebody needs to take two integer values. It is going to return nothing. Okay, so like that, you can give some information which you can get by the helper. Okay, so when somebody is saying helper, so it will give you the complete information of that particular function. So in this way you can understand what a function is going to do. So it is help on the function addition, help on the function addition. So what is the function addition? It will take two parameters a and b and it will return none. So this is the information that is being given on the docstring. So docstring will help you to give the information basically. Okay, so docstring is going to give you the information of this particular thing. So this is optional, of course, but you can use whenever you want some information to be furnished. Okay, so that is where you can use this. Okay, now next we will talk about uh, four ways. Okay, so we'll talk about four ways of function definition. Four ways of function definition. So first way is going to be a function without arguments and without return. Okay, so function without arguments and without return. Okay, so then you will have function. There are four steps. So function without arguments and without return, a function with arguments and without return, a function without arguments and with return, and a function without with arguments and with return. So with arguments and with return. Okay. So what we are going to talk about here. So we are going to talk about say function without arguments and without return, a function with arguments and without return, so function without arguments and with return, and a functions with arguments and without return. So what we are talking about here, we are talking about four ways in which we can define a function. So in the four ways in which we can define a function. Okay, right. So first style is you can take up a function without arguments. Okay, so function without arguments and without return. Okay, right. So now we will take the same addition but without parameters. So we will take up something like df addition. So no parameters. Okay, so no parameters, and you have to give some values inside. So b is equal to 3 and you can just say print of a plus b. So what we are doing here, so we are going for the addition. So addition without any arguments. So without any arguments. So without any arguments. Okay, so addition. Okay, so this is going to be 8. Okay, so 8. So you are passing nothing here. So you are passing nothing. So we are not passing anything basically. Okay, so function without arguments and without return. So a plus b, so it is adding a and b. So addition, so addition result is what? So addition result is 8. It is not passing any value for that matter. Okay, so it is not passing any value for that matter. Okay, so now what we are looking at here, so you are looking at, okay, so what you are looking at here, so you are looking at the value a and b. So what is a and b here? So a and b is going to be so a and b is going to be what? So a and b is going to be the input values. Okay, so a and b are going to be the input values. Okay, so what are the input values here? So the input values are going to be, so the input values are going to be what? A and b, but they are without arguments. Okay, so they are without arguments. Okay, so they are without what? So they are without arguments, right? So what we are talking about, function without arguments and with return. Okay, and now the same definition, so we will have a function with arguments and without return. So just now as we did in the previous one, which is going to be, so a function, so here you will have a comma b, and here you are doing nothing. Okay, so you are just saying addition of these values. Okay, so addition of these values. So what are the values? Like say 8 and like say 6. So a and b. So what you are doing here, you are saying addition of 8 comma 6. So this is going to give you 14. So why it is giving you 14? It is giving you 14 because, so because you are passing a and b values. Okay, so you are passing a and b values. So this is arguments with the arguments. So a and b are said to be arguments here. So a comma b are said to be arguments. So a comma b are said to be arguments. Okay, and they are needed to be passed. They are needed to be passed from the function call. Okay, so from the function call. So a and b are said to be arguments, and they are needed to be called from passed from the function call. Okay, so that is what is the point. So next we will talk about function without arguments and, so function without arguments and with return. Okay, so function without arguments and with return. So same thing. So I will try to make a small change where I'm going to say no arguments. But here what I'll do is I'll say a is equal to 7. Uh, so a is equal to 7 and say b is equal to 6. So now what I'll say is I will say return a plus b. Okay, so return a plus b. So now if I am passing nothing, so I'm passing nothing. So what I'll do is I can get the print. Okay, so I will say print. So print of addition. So print of addition. So simply I'm running this and I'm saying print of addition. So when I'm saying print of addition, you are getting 13. So why you are getting 13? Because addition, when you are saying the value is going here and it is being, so it is being adding a plus b and the value is getting returned, the value is getting returned back. So you are getting the value returned. So return that a and b. So a plus b value 7 plus 6 13 is getting returned. Okay, so now you can also use this addition like a variable also. Now for example I'm saying something like 7. Okay, so 7, so something like 7. So now what does addition do? Addition will get the value of 13. So addition will get the value of 13. So 13 plus 7 is going to be 20. So that is why what output you see over here? The output you see over here is 20. Okay, so output here you can see is 20. Why, sir? Because the value is getting returned. The value is getting return. So whenever you want to return, in this way you can return. Okay. If we do not have any return, if you do not have any return, by default, a none is returned. A none is returned. So if you don't have any return, then ultimately none value will be returned. So ultimately none value will be returned. Okay, so if you don't have any value as such, so what is returned? Actually, none value is returned. So none value is returned basically. Right. So that's how you are looking into the return. Okay, so we can return one to many values, one to many values. Even we can return a collection of elements. Even we can return a collection of elements also. Okay. Now, for example, okay. So let's say I am going for arithmetic calculation. Let's say, okay. So arithmetic calculations, and I will say return 10 comma, sorry, 10 plus 20, 10 minus 20, and 10 into 20. Okay, so how many values I'm returning? I'm returning multiple values. I'm returning multiple values. When somebody is calling arithcal arith call, so it will give you these three results as a tuple. Okay, so these three results as a tuple. So if you want three of the values, you can say something like v1 comma v2 comma v3 is equal to arith call. Okay, so arith call. So literally what happens is you can get v1 value and v2 value distributed basically. So v1 value, v2 value, and v3 value distributed. So v2 and v3. Okay, so v2 and v3. So just let me run this. So what you're getting here, so v1 value is going to be 30, v2 value is going to be minus 10, and v3 value is going to be 200. Okay, so this process we call it as packing. Okay, so this is unpacking. Okay, so this is unpacking. So this process is called unpacking of variables, unpacking of variables on the function call. Okay, so on the function call. Okay, so on the function call. So we are going to take up this on the function call. So that is how you define the returns. Okay, so you define the returns, and as I told you, you can even return a list of values. Now, for example, def, so fun lst. Now you want to return a list of elements. Okay, so return, suppose I am saying 4 comma 8 comma 9 comma 2 comma 5. So what you are returning basically, so you are returning a list of values. So you can return multiple values also. Okay, so you can return multiple values also, or otherwise you can write a logic. Okay, so now for example, so I want to do something like, let's say I have a list is equal to, right, 48925. So what I'll do is, so for I in LST, so for I in LST, so what I want to do is I want to say j dot append. So j is another list actually. So j is another list. So j dot append. So what I'll do is I will just append is like adding. So I into 5. Okay, so I into 5, and I will return a j value. Okay, so and I return a j value. So each number will be multiplied by j. Okay, so j, I mean, each number will be multiplied by 5, and what is returned here? We will return else. Append is like, append is for adding. Append adds an element. Append adds an element at the end. At the end. Okay, so how it adds? It adds by default. So append will add the element at the end. So simply what happened here? You are passing a list of values into the function, and each time you are multiplying it by 5. Each time you are multiplying it by 5. Okay, so each time you are multiplying it by 5. Okay, so that's how you are looking at the things. Okay, so you can just pass the list also. You can just pass the list, or you can just return the list also. So in this way you are going for the things. Okay, so and finally we are talking about a function. Okay, so a function with arguments and with return. So with arguments also, with return also. Now, for example, I can just take this list over here. Okay, so I can just take this list over here. Okay, so and I can pass a collection of values from here. So here I'm not going to do anything. So I'm going to pass those values from the function call. Okay, so from the function call, and I am going to do some operation here. So what is the operation that I'm doing here? I'm just saying j dot append I into 5. So what is I into 5 here? So I into 5 is nothing but 4 into 5, 8 into 5, 9 into 5, 2 into 5, and 5 into 5 each time. And it will return j value. So j value. So what is the j value here? So j value is going to be 20, 40, 45, 10, and 25. Okay, same thing, but I changed the style. So what is this style? The style is going to be function with arguments and with return. Arguments are also there, and returns are also there. Okay, so arguments are also there, returns are also there. And what are the previous things? So there was no argument, but return was there. Previous thing, so there was no argument and there was a return. Okay, so argument was not there and there was a return. So here arguments, with arguments and without return. So in this way you are looking at different styles in which we can define the functions. Okay, so we can define the functions. So next we will talk about the types of arguments. So types of arguments. So what are the types of arguments that I can go for? Okay, so types of arguments. So the first type of argument is going to be positional arguments. So positional arguments. So what are the first style of arguments here? Positional arguments. So whenever I am talking about positional arguments, the arguments that are needed to pass on the values according to the according to the position. The arguments that are needed to pass on the values according to the position. Okay, so according to the position. If not, there might be some errors. Okay, so there might be some errors. So what are the errors and all, we will try and understand. So the argument that are needed to pass on the values according to the function. If not, there might be some errors. Okay, so we are talking about that. Okay, so now a simple example we will go for. Now here in Python, we don't have to worry about the types of the variables. Okay, suppose for example, if I am saying So full name function. Okay, so full name function. So first and last name. Okay, so first and last name. Now I will return first plus last. So return first plus last. So I have a full name function. So in that full name function, I have two parameters, first and last. So we are going to return first and last. Return first plus last. Okay, so returning first plus last. So plus means it will concatenate. It will not add. It will concatenate. Now, for example, these are positional arguments. So here, first comma last are said to be positional arguments. Positional arguments. So first comma last are said to be positional arguments. So here first comma last. Now for example I will give the name as Ranjish uh, Kumar. So Ranjish Kumar is the name that I am giving. So now if I am running this, I am getting okay. So I'm getting full name. Okay, so I'm getting first plus last full name and this. Okay, so Ranjish Kumar. Now, for example, if I am making something like uh, Kumar, comma Ranjish. Okay, now I will get the names in uh, wrong order. Okay, so I'm getting Kumar Ranjish here. Okay, I'm getting Kumar Ranjish. So means I won't get any uh, perfect order. Now, for example, if I am passing, let's say Ranjish Kumar. Okay, so I'm passing only one parameter. I'm passing only one parameter or one argument rather. So I will get an error. Okay, so what it says? It says full name require missing one required positional argument last means there is no last here, so there is no last, so that is why I said if you are not using all of them you will get an error, you will get an error. So pass on according to the position. If not, there might be some error. So what is saying? Full name missing one positional argument means who is missing? Last is missing. Okay. Now you might be thinking. So if I pass something like comma and I'll say Ranjish Kumar. If you are thinking like this, it is a syntax error. So you cannot make it like this. Okay. So you cannot make it like this. Okay. So you can put a space, so that is different case. Okay, so that also you can put, so means at the end of the day you need to maintain the number of arguments and the position of the arguments. Okay, next you have keyword based arguments. So keyword based arguments, what are keyword based arguments here? So the arguments that are passed along with the name of the argument, along with the name of the argument. So there might not be any issue with the order. There might not be any issue with the order. Okay, so with the order there might not be any issue. Now, for example, if I am just doing it, so if I am saying first is equal to Ranjish and last is equal to, so last is equal to Kumar. So here if I am saying last is equal to Ranjish, I mean last is equal to Kumar and first is equal to Ranjish. Okay, so here also you are going to get Ranjish Kumar only, and here also you are going to get that Ranjish Kumar only, because you gave the names. You gave the names. And for example, if you are saying first is equal to Ranjish Kumar, so then you will get the same error. Okay. So now, for example, if you are saying LAST is equal to, okay, if you are skipping the first one, so then again it will tell you you are going for you're going for one missing positional argument, which is first. So this is keyword based argument. So keyword based arguments. So when I'm talking about keyword based arguments, so you should look at this. And then we will be talking about default arguments. Okay, so default arguments. So what are default arguments? These are the type of arguments. These are the type of arguments that are by default provided. Okay, that are by default provided into the argument by default provided into the argument. If we do not pass any value, the default value will take over. The default value will take over. Okay, so if we do not pass any value to the default, so default value will take over. Will take over. Okay, so now for example, I will say first is equal to something like um, okay, so if you are not given any name, so I'll say no name. Okay, no is equal to name. So if somebody is not giving any value, so otherwise I'll say first name. So first name, and here I will say last name. Okay, so here I'll say last name. So let me run this. Now if we are passing like this, no problem at all. Okay, so if we are passing like this, there is no problem at all. So you are getting the answer. So if we are passing like this also, there is no issue at all. Now for example, if we are passing it like this, so if we are passing it like this, now what you got? You got Ranjish Kumar last name also. Why that is coming? Because it is by default there. Okay, so it is by default there. So that is why it is coming. Now, for example, if we are giving last is equal to Ranjish Kumar, so automatically you got first name there. Okay, so why that is coming? Because it is by default available. It is by default available. So that is what is default argument or a default parameter. Default argument or a default parameter. Okay, so then we will have variable length arguments. Okay, so variable length arguments. So what do I mean by variable length arguments? Okay, so variable length arguments means the type of arguments given by star and argument name, okay, which can take multiple values, without multiple values without collection. So they can take multiple values without collection. So how it is possible? So we'll just look at one example. Now let me go back here where we took the list here, this example. So what we will do here is, so we will take something like star LST. Okay, so star LST. Now no need of passing the values like this. So you can pass separately also. So without collection also you can pass. Okay, so without collection also you can pass. So because it is a star, it will take all the arguments at a time. Okay, so all the arguments it will take at a time. So no need to send a list or any collection. You need to send a list or any collection. So individually you can send those values. So that is the requirement for variable length argument. So then finally we are going to look at keyword dict based keyword dict based arguments. Okay, so what we are looking at here, so these will follow this type of arguments. So this type of arguments given by double star argument name, which can take multiple values like a dict object. Okay, so how we are going to take up that, we will understand. So we will say def. Okay, so student info. Okay, student info, and I'll give something like double star and std. Okay, so double star std. Now what I can do here is I can just return. Okay, so what I'll do here is I will just return. Okay, so I'll just return std. Now how can I pass the values? That is important here. So in order to pass the values, so what I can do here is I can say something like student name. Okay, so student name is equal to Ravi. So student percentage is equal to 78.5. So student address is equal to Vizag. So what I did here, I gave the information in the dictionary format. Okay. So what you got here? So you got a dictionary form. Means you can give any name, any value. Okay, you can give any name, any value. So this is all about the parameters, and this is all about the functions. Okay, so all about the functions. Okay, so functions, how we declare the functions and how we can uh, work with the arguments and what are the types of the functions. So all those things are here. Okay, so this is the function session. So in the next session we will continue further. Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you.